Welcome to the She Slays the Day podcast with Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. Direct, soulful, comedic, advice for female chiropractors' most stagnating questions. Let's talk business, marriage and relationships, momming, and self-development. Here's your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick.
All right. Hey-o, ladies. Welcome to episode 6 of She Slays the Day podcast. Today's a special treat because we have Kirby with us. I've talked about you so much already. I'm sure people are like, who the heck is this magical guy? Because they couldn't hear you on the bonus episode.
Sorry about that. I'm sitting much closer to the mic today.
We got a new mic too. And if you saw how we were set up, I'm sitting like 4 feet away from the mic and Kirby's on top of it. So we tested. You should be able to hear him just great this time. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to start with a review. How do we work this freaking iPhone? Okay. All right, I got it.
Touch it with your thumb.
I got it.
Read the words on the screen.
Okay. So this one is called Students Need More of... The thing always cuts it off, so I have to finish the review. So I'm assuming it's students need more of this.
It's like Mad Libs.
Right. It starts with a T.
Say it now.
Students need more of this, we're going to say. And it's by Susie S. DC. As a student, I'm constantly trying to find more and more of the spiz or inspiration. My school doesn't get much of the vitalistic love. Sad, I know. So I have to find outside sources. I can't wait to tune in every week, especially on my way to school, and have the flame continuously fanned. Thank you for reaching out to the Chiropractic community and spreading the truth.
Can I ask a question?
Don't ask it. You're going to embarrass me in front of my friends.
No, I have to ask it now because I need someone to answer it.
I don't know what it means.
When people capitalize TIC at the end or TOR.
Yeah, I'm a chiropractor.
Yeah, what is that about?
I don't know.
Because we've been to conferences and I've read all the stuff.
Okay, so
I'm immersed in this world.
I feel here's why I just go along with it is because I feel it means that I am straight chiropractic philosophically. I'm in line with innate and the body can heal, and I live and breathe the chiropractic philosophy, the original OG philosophy. But I don't understand what that has, if that's right.
Yeah.
And what that has to do with capitalizing tick and tor. So somebody's going to write it.
Please do.
Please do.
Yes, I like the interaction, so I'm going to ask people to react to things. And
all right.
I think it's fun, but anyway, so tell us what that's about. And I also find it funny of straight and straight chiropractic. I feel like that's such a distinction of within that. I'm sure there are so many varying lines of do you take ibuprofen? You don't believe in the innate healing power of the body?
Oh, yeah. That's a very valid point. Man, you're embarrassing me so much in front of my friends.
I'm just here to ask questions as an outsider. When
I'm going to conferences, I pack a small baggie of ibuprofen because I know if I'm having a lot of upper back tension or something like that, I can't just go around being hey, you got any ibuprofen? So I have to secretly, if I'm going to a chiropractic specific thing, I have to make sure I bring ibuprofen just in case I need it because I know I can't go around asking for it.
Sure, the upper back tension, that's what you need it for.
What would you, I don't even know what that's in reference to.
It was a hangover joke, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay, good point. All right, so can we move on? You're sidetracking me. You're a bad influence. So let's start with our prayer. And you know what? On the last episode, I talked about how your prayers are so much prettier than mine. So I'm going to have you lead us in prayer today.
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
I know. I love you.
It. All right, here we go. Dear God, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this amazing woman that I get to share my life with and these amazing new projects that we do together. Help us be a conduit for your will and what you want. Help us to look to connect with you and see you in everything, and help everyone who's listening. Help them hear what they need to hear, get closer to you, and find their way to a deeper peace, however that may happen. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Is it bad that I reached for my gin and soda while you were praying?
Well, that's right. Yeah, not after. Well, I open my eyes and look up and...
Hey, it's Friday afternoon. We're doing happy hour while we record this. Okay, so then read us our question, Kirby.
All right. So our question comes from Callie, and we know Callie.
We know Callie.
We
love Callie.
Callie is the best. She owns the Hive Chiropractic in
Holman, Wisconsin.
Callie interned for us, but she's got a great question. She had a bunch of questions, but we narrowed it down to this. So she talks about, at first, I think the biggest thing I've learned so far from opening is that everyone I've ever idolized has a past that is very different than how they practice now. They started from square one, and people don't really share the real and raw part of opening, like how many coaching groups you have to go through to find your way, or how many times you change things up, or how many mistakes you've had to make to figure it out. So I feel if you just shared how you started and remember the nitty-gritty details, people will love it. If I can think of any more questions, I'll resubmit. But she clarified a little bit more when we asked. She wanted to know what is something you did at the beginning of practice that you would never do again, or what are 5 things that you would change?
Okay, so here's my fundamental problem with this question. 1, I know Callie, and so what she's saying is what mistakes did you make so everyone listening can avoid them and end up in the perfect spot, so they can skip that time of she's asking everyone's different than when they were, and that would be a 16-year-old asking a 50-year-old what are all the mistakes you made in life so I can just have the wisdom that you have at 15. It's oh gosh, that's just not how it works. We got to this place through the beauty of those mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's how you find, that's really how I feel you hit a guardrail here and there and you find what you value and what you don't. And so no matter what we say in this podcast, you're gonna fuck up, and that's okay because it's gonna be a part of your story. It's inevitable. You cannot avoid going down, quote unquote, the wrong path.
Yeah.
Because philosophically, I don't believe there is a wrong. And so this is why this is hard for this question for us.
Yeah.
We talked about it because it's literally nothing is, what was her wording? Terrible or...
Oh, yeah. What does it say? What is something you did at the beginning of practice you would never do again?
And there's literally nothing. There's literally nothing I would never do again.
Yeah. Because
this sounds so corny, but we learned from it.
Yeah, and I think that's a general philosophical thing.
We're going to answer. We're going to give you some shit.
Don't worry.
This isn't just an hour of Kirby and I drinking gin and soda and being Callie, stupid question.
Bad question. You need to get your mind right. No, but that is a philosophical thing that I thought of when we were kind of going down memory lane and looking at this that was a mistake, or we did fix that, but part of where we are now is learning those things, being able to adapt from those things, and having those lessons so that hopefully we're failing faster and smaller, but we needed these failures. Mm-hmm. And so I think if nothing else, a great takeaway is you will mess up. You will make mistakes. Hopefully you can just get better at recognizing failure quicker.
And adapting quicker.
Yeah. And using those failures to dial in what you actually care about is a big thing too.
Mm-hmm. So, absolutely.
With that being said, let's go through some horror stories of mistakes we've made.
Right. Okay, so we were thinking back about how, quote unquote, our day one of the clinic, not day one seeing patients, but how we started the practice. And it's a funny, really weird story that is unique. That would you change anything about it?
So to break it down, have you mentioned this on the podcast?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So we probably should talk about that.
Okay. So when we went to buy a clinic, Lauren's talked about what we almost did about her associating and then buying an existing practice and buying patients we didn't want and all that. Thankfully, that did not work out because that would have been a disaster. And I think that's a thing that a lot of young chiropractors fall into that mistake. Thankfully, that's not one that we did, so we'll avoid that for now. What we actually did is we bought, quote unquote, a really small clinic in a really small town. And as we were touring it, so like keep in mind, I had just graduated from college with a degree in finance and marketing. So I'm like entrenched in like business valuation. Like I still have
and I make
Demodarian
decisions based on my emotions and how I feel about it.
So Lauryn is walking around the space, like seeing what the vibe is and seeing if she can get a read on the space. And I'm like asking, okay, so, if we're going to look at this, how are we going to value this business? I have a few different spreadsheets I could put this into.
It was only $19,000. And I think that's really important.
I don't mind sharing numbers too. Yeah.
It was $19,000. And she said she was seeing like 25 to 50 people a week. And like turnkey, type thing. So we're walking around. She's got a front desk. She's got chairs in the waiting room. She's got a stim machine. She's got a computer, IKEA furniture. Like, it's not great, but it's definitely like not bad. So we go in going like, all right, it's $19,000. So I had just gotten done with our business class at Northwestern. So I'm feeling pretty smart myself. And so I ask her, like, do you have any tax returns that we can look at or a profit and loss statement? Do you remember what she said to the tax return question?
No, I remember she was dodgy.
Okay, so this was her third year in practice. She said she didn't actually need to file a tax return since she's been in business because she changed her name. So I think both of us were like,
So we won't mention her name on this podcast.
Oh my God,
in case the IRS is listening. They would know that that's how she interpreted the rule of law.
Yeah. So then we're both, Kirby and I, like just stiffen. And we're like, So then I'm like, okay, next question. I'm going to nail this one. Do you have a profit and loss statement? Or I think I even called it a P&L to look at.
Yeah, like, do you have a P&L? Yeah. Do you have a couple years P&L we can look at? And she goes, oh, yeah. And then she pulls the bottom tray of the printer out and pulls a blank piece of paper out and starts writing while narrating. And she's like, so, I guess we did like 50 or 60,000 last year, right?
Yeah. And then she's like, my rent is about this. I pay about this in like supplies. And she's just like picking numbers out of thin air.
I think, and I think a couple of times she just said, let's say. And then we're like, okay. So anyway, she does all of this and she's like, so yeah, I make like 20 grand a year. So I don't
think she even said that. I think the question, she had like said how much she collected. She was guesstimating. And my question, literally, I turned to her and I go, but you like own a house and stuff, right? Like that was my thing of like, in my head, I'm going, well, she's at least, this business is doing well enough that she could afford a house. So we ended up buying that business.
We bought that business.
We bought that.
So here's why we bought the business, was thankfully the assets were worth the price. So she had 2 or 3 tables. She had the rent that was going to roll over for a space. She had computers. She had some patients walking in the door. So like even if we were starting from scratch, we were okay. But the one thing that we did do, and this was a lesson that like as we were talking through it, was a lesson we learned on the fly, is when we had a lawyer like draft up the purchase agreement, we put in there that we are not transferring, I'm not going to say the name of her business, but like we were not buying that business and then calling it Blue Hills Chiropractic. It wasn't Blue Hills Chiropractic formally operating as blah, blah, blah. We were establishing a new LLC. We were buying the assets and buying the rights to the patients or, the records, but we were not assuming debts. We were not assuming... Which worked out well because for about 2 years we had a lot of debt collectors.
You know that whole you don't have to file taxes thing? You also apparently don't have to pay your bills.
Yeah.
But we were legally protected. That was smart.
So that was a good thing. That was the thing that we almost did, that thankfully we worked with an attorney for that purchase agreement.
It's so tough. I know I'm going off script here, but like when I do look at it, there is this part of me that wonders how much... so you're right. We could have like bought that equipment for like $15,000 and saved $4,000, but like the amount and there wasn't a single day that there wasn't a patient coming in. Mm-hmm. There were days where I had like 1 patient, 3 patients. She was definitely not seeing 25 to 50. By the time we took over, she was seeing like 15 a week.
And she was also gone most of the month in a different state. So
but yeah,
she was
but like she was just philosophically, well, I didn't have any philosophy in the beginning, but just like how I wanted to practice was different than how she practiced. And so I went in with like a 6-month unofficial game plan of how I was going to take the patients that she was seeing and like turn them into my style of chiropractic. So like I do kind of wonder again, like
so like a mistake would be that we didn't just open from raw.
Yeah. But I think I would still do the same thing because it was very nice. Literally, we went to the bank. I like signed the papers. It got notarized. She handed me a key. Like that was really nice. But that's a pretty rare thing. So we don't need to spend a lot of time on like, if you have somebody willing to give you a turnkey practice for less than 20 grand, maybe do it.
Yeah, go for it. That's my official stance. Go for it. If it's less than 20 grand and you're not assuming any of their debt.
Right. Okay. So things that we actually maybe did wrong. So I would say that I have seen a couple like chiropractors start up recently. I'm going to shout them out because they're awesome people. So Lacey and Colton Neville, I've seen this, like they've been a huge inspiration, as well as Sadie, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Brodiker, something like that. Sheena Lee, there's like these startups that Jen Givens is another, they're so them from the get-go. Callie herself is also one that like from day one.
Well, she had a great internship.
She really did. From day one, they know themselves, or at least they I don't want to say think they know themselves. They knew themselves way better than I did when we were starting.
For sure.
And they're like, no, I'm not going to jump through that hoop because 5 years from now, I don't want to be dealing with that. So I'm not going to start that way. Like I was a chameleon in the beginning. I was, okay, you want to be seen twice and then you want to call me. Okay, fine. That's not my recommendation, but okay, sounds good. Okay, you want to submit to insurance. Like, okay, you want to do this. I will be funny. I will be kind. I will be great. I will be a senior citizen chiropractor. I will be a physical therapy chiropractor. You want me to massage your muscles? Like, money.
I'm just laughing at the idea of you doing massage on patients now.
Okay, in my mind, it was like, they probably got like 2 minutes and I was like, rah.
Yeah. So do you think that's a function of just where you are in life? Because I feel like at the same thing of like those people you mentioned, they're pretty independent.
They're badass.
They're badass
like,
people who get themselves in life.
Yeah.
So like,
are you about to ask me if I didn't get myself in life back then?
Not to the full extent of
say,
that.
like, I don't think we have time.
No, but I'm saying that idea of like if you have that style, if you've seen that someone else is doing it, did you have at that time? Did you like see someone who was fully doing it the way they wanted to and really confident, and you said like, oh, but that's not me?
No, but I didn't seek it out.
Yeah.
Oh, here's we were playing. So one thing that I would have definitely done different, this is a for sure, is I would have taken the time in chiropractic school to go to seminars, I should have come out if I was, because there was never a moment, well, I guess we were very confident in starting a practice once we got to that point. But for somebody so confident in starting her own practice, I sure as shit didn't know what I wanted.
Yeah.
So like I hadn't taken any time to look at different models and see it. So it's not like that it wasn't being done. I just didn't do the legwork of like, so what does chiropractic mean? What is that philosophy? What does an all cash model look like? I just like went to school, went to bars on the weekend, got engaged,
And on my side, I was coming out of school for business. I was on the board of the entrepreneurship club. So I was like, I can start a business. Like I knew how to do the nuts and bolts, but again, without the philosophy of like, exactly why are we doing that?
Yeah.
So I don't know. One of the things that when we think about is, so eventually we went out of network with insurance.
Yeah,
and
like
that was
5 years later, 6 years later.
And that was a big philosophical game changing thing for us. And I'm really, really glad we did.
I have days. Most days.
Yeah,
I would say 29 out of 30
calls
days.
And
I'm
people
like,
being able to walk in and say, like, yeah, we can take you would be nice. But it saves us headaches in the long run.
Yep.
Would you have done that earlier? Would you have done that right away?
This is hard because I want to be like, yes, I would have stood for what I believed in from day one. I don't think so. I think it is so amazing, the docs who start completely out of network from the beginning. Like, I think all the docs that I listed are like all out of network, all cash practices. We chose easy, hard. Yeah. And I like that they chose hard, easy. Like, I think it's really admirable. Like, you look at someone who's choosing hard, easy, and you're like, girl, you're going to get it 5 years from now. It's going to be amazing, and you're going to work your ass for it. But, like, hard, easy, I don't know. Like, I think I'd have done the same thing.
Is it something of, to pull that off, you need to know who you are. You need to be confident in front of your patients to say, I believe in this. I know my systems.
That's true. I would have been a phony. Now when I talk to a patient about why we're not in network, I'll be like, okay, I'm not going to say a name of an insurance company. See, aren't you proud of me? I'm like,
look at you. I'm usually the one who's like, okay, before you give financial advice, before you give legal advice, remind people
I
you're
just
not
don't
a
want
lawyer.
a nasty gram from an insurance company. So literally when I'm at an ROF with a patient and they're like, oh, I have X insurance, I can be like, oh my gosh, let me tell you. I know, here's what's going to happen. You're going to call them, the number on the back of your card, and they're going to tell you, you have unlimited chiropractic. So, there is an amount of conviction in my voice of going through. I mean, I've been caught on 3-way phone calls. I mean, not caught. I've literally had a patient call and was asking me questions about why I was, quote unquote, forcing her to pay for out of pocket for her son's ear infections, to then and I was explaining, I was being truthful, I was doing nothing wrong. For then an insurance company to be like, hi, yeah, Dr. Lauryn, this is so-and-so from X Insurance. Like, are you effing kidding me? So there, like I said, 29 out of 30 days of the month, I'm so happy we're out of network now. I don't know that if I didn't go through that, that was just a part of our story.
That gives you the conviction of
to be like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Because you're gonna have those hard days in practice where you're like, I wish we were seeing more. Yep. It would be easier if we were in network. It would be easier.
Yep. We had a hard transition year of trying to maintain total patient numbers while going out of network, and that was really hard, and that's a lot of extra work. But also you don't have that sword hanging over you. Yeah. Because especially with pediatric stuff, the wording can be confusing. In Wisconsin, it's extra confusing, but it just always felt like a sword hanging over your head of until they notice us and go, well, we want to get some money back from them and an audit's coming. I like the fact that we don't have an audit coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. We're both like, knock on wood. Okay, so that was one. Understand, me philosophically, figure out me right away. 2, I would say, is I wish I would have hired a coach right away. I was so damn cocky and bullheaded. And it took years to figure out. As opposed
to now where you're just
super
humble. You listen and you take input from everyone.
I am actually very coachable.
You are coachable.
I am mildly to moderately coachable depending on what the moon is doing. No.
Is Mercury in retrograde? Okay, it's not. I'm coachable.
But I think what's important is it would need to be a congruent coach. So I'm not just saying any coach. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of goes off one, is first you got to figure out, you got to do the work. You got to figure out who you are. Because unless you know who you are, you're not going to be able to find a coach that you should hire.
To that point, though, to what Callie was saying in the question of that is kind of the honesty of sometimes action is the step of you get a coach or you interview a coach or you see if a coach is going to work for you, and you don't know until if you don't know who you are, coaching still might have been the best step right away to find out that that's not the coach for you. I mean, once you had coaches, you grew with them. And I liked all my coaches. I know you did. But I'm just saying, like, even if someone's listening and they go like, oh, well, I'm not exactly sure who I am, so should I get a coach?
Oh.
I think
I think the right coach will help you. And here's what I will say is not all coaches will do this. And I would never say anything bad about anyone. But, like, I can tell you, I loved all my coaches, and all of my coaches helped me discover more of who I was.
Yep. And there were coaches that we looked into that as we looked into
that
them,
my friends were, that I was like, oh, yeah, no.
You were just like,
You will fit into their model.
Yeah, you were like, well, I think I'm going to get in a fight with that coach on day one. And I was like, well, I philosophically disagree with them both on philosophy and finance, so I don't think that's going to work. So,
yeah.
So, yeah, coaching right from the get-go.
It's worth it. But it can get out of hand. Like, you can't outsource everything right away.
No. Well, that was going to be the thing I was going to say of, like, having systems, because we were inventing our own systems.
Yeah.
And that was...
Some of them were so stupid.
As soon as we got into real coaching, they were like, okay, here's paperwork. Here's some good things to say on day one. Here's a day one versus day two talk. Here's, a way to market. Those are all great things. It can be at the beginning, especially if someone's listening, they're going like, well, here's what I'm going to do from day one. I'm going to get a coach. Your coach may tell you, here's what I use for a website provider and a paperwork provider and a whatever. If you're doing all of those things, you have to keep in mind your individual situation, because you could outsource your website for $700 a month and your paperwork for $300 a month and your social media for $400 a month. And yeah, you have a pretty awesome looking business, and some patients are starting to come to the door.
You broke as F.
Yeah, you are broke, and we'll talk about loans later in this, and we'll probably do a whole episode dedicated to loans. But reading the stuff online, I mean, we were heavy. Our Lauryn student loans were way more than the value of our house, and a lot of people are in that situation, and you're never going to get out from under that if you're having no actual profit at the end of the day, because you've outsourced your entire business and done what someone else says.
Right. Okay, so number 3. I would have defined my idea of success earlier. Sorry, we're married. We would have done the legwork to figure out. You should have helped me.
You don't have to do a fake voice there.
You should have helped me figure out what I was looking for earlier. No, I think this is normal. I see students do this, is that they see people who are very happy and confident, or at least seemingly happy and confident in their life situation. It's one of the things I've prayed for. I don't remember which episode it was. I think it was 3. That I don't want anybody ever listening to this podcast to attach to us and go like, and put us on a pedestal of like, that's what I want. Or, what was I talking about?
You're talking about defining success.
Oh, yeah. Like we wasted a ton of time striving towards this idea that I thought was going to fill this little like void of like, but once I see this many people, I mean, I remember
that number is
a
fading horizon. Number. It is
that weekly number still like
honestly that might be a more of, not to put it on you because I was also worried, but you were freaking out more, so it made it easier for me to like take the opposite role. But focusing on weekly numbers is probably a mistake that
the scale. If I could just get rid of those 2 obsessions in my life, I would be a complete person.
Those like instant things. There's I love Nassim Taleb. I mentioned him in the book episode, but he talks about not reading newspapers because if you're looking for something every day, you'll have something to freak out about. So if you're looking at your daily numbers or your weekly numbers and you're making big decisions based on that, like, you are going to be freaking out nonstop.
Not nonstop.
Well, you have a great week and you have a bad week.
Yeah, so it's just like the scale. It's either good or it's bad. So, anyway, but like, defining success. I mean, I remember when we started, I thought that I just wanted to see, and I hate to share numbers, but I also...
I like taking down the stigma of like, well, we're doing pretty good. And it's like, what's pretty good? Yeah. What's pretty bad?
So
I don't mind.
I had no idea what I wanted. I thought that I wanted to see 100 to 125 patients a week, and that I would just be happy. I would just... Now, what I didn't know about myself was that I am very straight chiropractic, meaning like I don't do anything else. So like an appointment is 5 to 10 minutes long. So that doesn't fill much time. We didn't have kids at this time. So we very quickly got to that 100 and 125, and I was like, okay, 250. 250, I'll be happy. I can't even imagine wanting more than that. So then when we got to like 250, I didn't go to 350, I went to 500.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, as we got to that, of like, okay, so am I going to pretend that if we got to 1,000 patients a week, I'd be happy? Now, some people would. Some people are listening to, no, I really do. Like, I mean, whatever. There's no judgment on that. Yeah, but I'm saying, like, some people, that is their idea of success. For us in our life and what we're seeking, if we were seeing 1,000 people, I don't know. It's just, I wish I would have known more about what our success looks like. Because right now, the freedom that our relationship and our business has, like, and I talk a lot about our freedom and my freedom, but like our employees have a ton of freedom. Our employees have unlimited vacation because philosophically that's what I want for them.
Yeah, we found out what we valued and we wanted to share that with people. And if we were all about money still, we would just be like, here's the bonuses, here's the salary, but you work for us and you do exactly what we want. But I mean, to that point of freedom, so like now we've created a thing where we have more free time, you have more CEO time to like really focus on philosophy, and that comes with having associates, with having employees. When we hired an associate, did you wish we would have done that earlier?
Like hindsight looking back?
Yeah, of like, is that
yeah, because so we hired, I've already said this, I shared that we hired our first associate when I was like really tapped out between 300 and 320. Like it was just my mental.
I remember you physically started.
And I said that in episode 2 or
so
whatever.
So exhausted.
Yeah. I don't know. So,
I have an answer to this, but I want to see what you say.
So I think that what I don't want to say is no, because I don't want anybody listening who's around 150 or 200 or 250 to hear my answer and go, oh, so never mind, I shouldn't. We should do an entire episode on whether or not you're ready to hire an associate, because it is a complicated question that has it doesn't have zero to do with your numbers, but like less to do with your numbers than you think. But I'm going to say no. I'm glad that we hung out as long as we did, because we like worked, we were making some dough. Mm-hmm. I was working my butt off. You were working your butt off, and we were collecting. We weren't going on trips. We didn't have time to do that. But we were just shoveling money at the loans. Yeah,
that was where I was going with it, of that hyper-focus allowed us to pay off loans so fast. And when you don't have an associate, it really puts things in black and white of like, we talked about this of, we love to travel, and we travel a lot now, but we knew we liked to travel even back then. Mm-hmm. But when you look at a vacation and you go, well, we would need to close the clinic for 5 days. So the cost of
just $2,000,
the cost of the vacation is $2,000 for this all-inclusive in Mexico. But then it's also $10,000 because we are closed for a week. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's even after you count in like, okay, well, we'll shift some to the week before, some to the week after. When you go like, do you want to take a $12,000 vacation to Mexico to stay at a mid-level all-inclusive? You go, oh, no.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing of, and we'll talk about this in the loans episode too, of like, there's not really any easy answers. There are always trade-offs in every decision. I'm glad that we made that trade-off at that time.
Yeah, it was right for us at that time. We didn't, we did have a kid. We had Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie was born by then, but we also knew...
Ty might have been born.
Yeah, when did we have
Yeah, I think Ty was born. We had 2 kids without an associate. Yeah, because we had maternity leaves, duh. Mm-hmm. If we had an associate, we wouldn't have had to have maternity leave. So I think I still would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So, speaking of loans, number 4. I know, but we've gotten so many questions on it. Again, okay, we will have an entire episode. Has somebody written
Yes. People have written many scripts. People have written about student loans, and we've had Instagram comments on it. We'll do a whole thing dedicated to student loans. I'm just working up the courage to like revisit my mistakes.
Do I have to be on that?
Yes.
Can I just have you?
You can be like the interviewer.
Somebody smart.
Oh, wait.
You and somebody smart. You and somebody smart, like a finance student loany person.
Another smart person?
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
That's what you meant to
say?
And
I'll just be like, hey, She Slayers, welcome to episode 27. We're talking about student loans. I'm not actually going to be on this because I didn't do anything except like make the money.
It'd be interesting to find someone who took a different tactic to it or who has like a different finance background.
Ooh, Lona. We are digressing.
Yeah.
Hardcore. We are literally having this conversation. Are you going to edit this out?
No, we're going to keep this in. We'll talk to some people. We're going to do an entire loans episode. But in this one kind of falls. We wrote down loans as a thing to discuss. I think I have a different one than you of what mistakes we made around loans at the beginning.
Well, my mistake around student loans was I just didn't understand them. And I still didn't I never put in again the time to figure out like, okay, I owe this, but what does that mean? What is that going to take to pay off? In school, one small thing that I personally think mentally would have added up just for my personality is if I didn't have any job. Like I didn't work for the school. I didn't work for Caribou. I didn't do anything like that. Caribou is a coffee shop around here, just in case. So I think that if I would have had even the smallest part-time job where I was working like 3 to 4 hours a week even, I think it would have kept me a lot more connected with the dollar and the amount of work that it takes to earn it. Because I got into a rhythm in chiropractic school pretty quickly, like by the end of my first year, where it was like, I just get given $6,000. $6,000 gets deposited into my account to spend over the next trimester. And then as I would get to the end of a trimester, Northwestern does 3 trimesters instead of quarters. If I had like $1,500 left, I'd be like, sweet, I'm going to Vegas. Not to gamble, but like, of course I can go do that trip. I've got money and I'm about to get another $6,000 check in 4 weeks. Like, no prob. So I think if I would have been working and gotten a paycheck for like $76.13, I'd be like, whoa, like money is real. And the amount of energy that it was going to take to pay back that money, I think I would have been good.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is the amount of energy it's going to take to pay back that money is a big thing of like, so Warren Buffett talks about the value of like understanding compound interest. So like he drove the same car for a really long time, but he understood how compound interest works of like, if you don't buy a new car when you're 25 because you're just investing that money, that new car could be a house in 20 years, if you don't spend that $30,000 today. I think that's the thing that most people don't understand about their student loans is if you're going to take 25 years or whatever to pay off your student loans and it's 7 or 8% interest, whatever you're borrowing and spending on today is going to double 3 times by the time you pay it off. So I remember you bought me like a electric razor. I think it's still the one I have today.
That's right.
You bought that for me as a birthday present while you were in school, and I was appalled because it was like $300.
It was not $300. I think it was like $150.
I swear.
It was a Norelco.
It was really.
I bought it from Target. Target doesn't carry $300
I still have it. It was really nice. So okay, for the sake of argument, say it was like $300, and we would have gone the full like income-based repayment, forgiven after 25 years type of thing. That $300 borrowed would have doubled 3 times. So not 3 times 300, not like $900.
Was it an $1,800 razor?
Yeah, so I'm saying if you would have known that you were buying like a $2,500 razor for me,
so what's your point?
Understood money that way.
So what's your okay? Fine.
Okay, so that was yours. I'm saying like thinking of it from both sides of both like understanding how much money is today and understanding how much money is in the future.
Yeah.
Mine was not understanding how the income-based repayment program worked. Mm-hmm. We spent a year where like the
air quotes Lauryn didn't do shit except adjust people.
But like the bill was coming in and we were like, well, we got to select something like this bill is really, really high. We owed Do you mind even, we're going to talk.
I think I shared it on the last episode.
So like
176.
Yep. You had 176 when you graduated chiropractic school. We had like a big payment coming in. We knew we weren't going to make that much this year, so we enrolled in the income-based repayment program. We did that for a year, and I didn't fundamentally understand it enough, and I didn't take the time to understand it. I didn't know that the juice was still running, that interest was still accruing, and that we were never going to...
We weren't even touching principal for that year,
we
right?
weren't even touching principal. And if we were going to be successful like we planned to be, we weren't going to... By the time we did the 25-year income-based repayment thing, I think it switched now to only 20, we were going to pay so much money, and we didn't understand the risk of it not being forgiven and all of those things. So that's my biggest regret around loans, is like...
Just understanding them.
Just understanding. It's so complicated. And I have a degree in finance. So it is worth taking the time or finding someone who can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that exists.
Oh, for sure. There are, and we'll talk about that more later.
Okay. All right, so number 5, last one. So this one is something I'm still working on, but I've gotten a lot better. So it is ditching the ego. And I mean this in a lot of different aspects. So first, I will say that do you remember the moment that I realized, like, I knew I'd been saying that it wasn't my clinic, it was our clinic. But do you remember the moment in, like, we were in the car when I realized, like, oh, fuck, this actually is half your
I remember where we were on the road, on the way to Minneapolis.
Yeah. Okay, so for, I think it was only, 2 years, so it wasn't forever. I would say, my clinic, and Kirby would be like, it's our clinic. And I'd be like, yeah, of course it's our clinic. But it's my clinic. So we're driving, and just randomly, I don't even remember why this thought jumped into my head, but I was just like, hold on a sec. And that's literally was the transition, I believe. So you're telling me, if you leave me, we're married at this point, you get half of my clinic? He's like, yeah, that's how it works. And I'm like, that is not fair. I understand if I leave you, I should have to give you half. But if you leave me, you're entitled to half of my clinic. No, this is Wisconsin. I don't know, blah,
Wisconsin's
blah, blah.
Like a no-fault divorce state.
Yeah.
You split
Not the point of this
equally,
story.
But...
And so in my mind, that was literally the first moment where I started to, I had to wrap my head around, why would the law say that a non-chiropractor spouse was entitled to half? And this is the same for any self-employed business, but it's just clearer when there's a degree of but you don't even have a chiropractic degree. Why would the law? And so that started to chip away the ego that even though he didn't have a didn't have a chiropractic license, any event that I was at, so if I'm at a business after 5, a small, a BNI thing, if we have kids, and I'm sure there's lots of analogies where there's not kids involved and it still relates, but you were with them, so you still had to sacrifice. You were still giving to the business, even though you weren't there adjusting, even though you weren't, for those startups, maybe your spouse is in a job that he hates and wants to quit, but you're seeing 5 people a week right now, and he's investing in his years of happiness in you building up that. And so it's that ego that when your spouse isn't a chiropractor, and we've gotten a couple questions on marriage and my husband don't understand.
Yeah.
I slipped into an accent there. So
I'm not gonna say what kind of accent.
So it's when you start to first understand of whether your spouse, and I think this actually goes past your spouse, if you're a single mom and your parents are watching your kids, or this business is your business, but it's really not. It takes the love of so many other people pouring into it to make it successful. So that was first of being a lot less I'm building this empire.
And I think that's a growth and maturity thing in relationships with parents, relationships with your spouse, with anyone. It's just how you, as you get older, as you develop, you view the world differently. You always view the world through your own lens at first, And then you need something to break that down to go like, oh, I didn't get here all on my own. And it's not all about me. There are people who are sacrificing. And from my side, I'm sure I was going like, well, I'm doing all of this, website work and finance work, and like, this is ours. And I wanted to probably claim even more than I technically did for the business. But it's that, it's the working past what I did and what I'm owed, and getting to that there is no I and there's only the we, which, that's a direct shout out to Darren, our marriage counselor.
That's our marriage counselor. There's no I, it's we. Yeah. But along those lines too, with the ego is like, any friends or family listening, and I'll be like, yeah, you were. I was cocky as a mother back there. Like, okay, so here's the deal. There's my personality, but I see a lot of students just struggle with this. They come out and they spent a lot of money on a degree, and they have the letters D and R in front of their name.
And you've been around people who are immersed in that day in and day out. It's
I am a doctor. I am a real doctor. And we come out with this chip. A lot of us come out of school with this chip on our shoulder, trying to prove to the world that we're a real doctor. And like, we're upset when our family talks about flu vaccines in front of us, and we're upset when our friends don't bring their kids to us to look in their ears instead of the ER. And like, there's this ego that we're like looking to everyone else to fill this void of self-confidence in us that like, now I still like get annoyed with some of those stuff, but like not even remote. It used to affect me because I was like, I was just seeking their worth.
It's that Brene Brown thing too, of like the story you're telling yourself. So in your head, you're going, my friend knows that I am a better choice for looking in their ears than the MD, but they are choosing to go there almost as a fuck you to me, and they don't like me, and maybe it's because I, didn't say the right thing at the party last week.
They don't believe in chiropractic. Yeah. They don't, the story I'm telling you.
It's so much in your head, and if you actually shared that, they would go like, oh no, I was scared. My kid was crying, and it was 7 p.m., and urgent care was going to close in an hour, so I did that quick, and I was exhausted. Like, sorry, I didn't mean to bother you.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of along with that, like, the story I'm telling myself is the last kind of, like, ego aspect that I needed to shake. And reminders monthly for sure for me of that patients, so people who weren't patients, I was so upset with, like, why aren't you a patient? Or people who became patients and then kind of, like, dropped off the schedule. The story I would tell myself is they hated me. What did I do wrong? They don't like me. They're obviously going to another chiropractor. And I would lose so much just energy around the idea of like, why isn't that person coming to me anymore? I can't believe it. I thought they liked me. After what I did for them, I can't believe they would leave me.
I remember a lot of those questions in the early years. And I mean, they still happen now. I mean, rarer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a hard thing to shake when you pour out your energy and you invest in someone and you think you have like the best thing and you assume that they fully understand the equation. And
you assume they fully understand.
You assume they get it.
Yep. And so I think the thing that has helped that most is years and years of patients calling and like getting back on the schedule after like 2 years of falling off. And I'll be like, hey, Tracy, how are you? I've missed you. And they're like, oh yeah, life has been crazy. I've been doing really, really good. I've been meaning to call for the last 6 months, but blah, 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 blah. Like, yep, I'm here now. And you're just like, so you didn't hate. I don't say this.
So many hours worrying about you.
I thought you hated me.
Yeah.
I thought you were totally going to another chiropractor. I thought you betrayed me. Like, and they were just busy.
No, my dad got sick, and so I like went somewhere else for a while, and blah blah blah.
Yeah. I mean, a real life example is what. Gosh, I hope my dentist isn't listening. But like, what I'm doing with my dentist right now. So about 7 months ago, I'm paying my dental bill. And like, I'm a holistic healthcare provider. I should get preventative dentistry. So anyway, I'm like paying my astronomical dental bill just for a checkup. And as she's asking me, like, okay, so your next appointment puts us to like May 15th. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know my schedule. I'm gonna have to call you. Like, knowing fully I'm gonna skirt out of this. Not because I don't like my dentist, not because I don't believe in regular dental care, just because I was like, dude, I just don't really want to spend this money again in 6 months. I think I'll come back in like 9. Even though it's naughty, even though I'm a daredevil here.
So badass.
And so it's just the things where it's like, if I were that dentist, I'd be like, why doesn't Lauryn like me?
Doesn't she
what did
get
I do?
it? I figured she would understand.
She of all people should understand the importance of prevention. She's just like, I've been really busy and I just don't feel like it. I'm coming back. Just life type of thing.
You just always see the world through your own lens. It's that tricky thing.
Mm-hmm. It's either about money or they're busy or, I mean, maybe they don't like you. That does happen sometimes, especially to me sometimes. Not as much.
Well, it's a classic thing that like you learn in any like elementary psychology class of like if someone cuts you off, you assume it's because they're an asshole. Mm-hmm. If you cut someone off, you assume they'll understand your motivation.
Yep.
Like they'll understand that like you didn't mean to be in that lane, or you're really rushing because you're late to pick up your kids, and you go like, why would they be mad? Don't they understand me? Like they should understand.
I gave a wave saying sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, even today, like my acupuncturist and I barter. I don't even have to pay for acupuncture, and I somehow have fallen off her schedule for 5 months. And today, I had to decide. Do I get my eyelash extensions filled or do I go to the acupuncturist? I only have time for one. And I will tell you guys, my eyelashes are looking real fine as we speak. But
I get points. I went to acupuncture and I got cupping. So.
But I love her. I don't have to pay for it. It's just, we just got to not take stuff so personal. And that's what I've done. Like, I just take it personal that my family didn't instantly think I was the greatest doctor in the world and turned to me for every single question. I took it personal when patients didn't this. Just gotta leave that ego. It's not serving you in any way. Leave it at the door.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, ego in general, learning about yourself, all of those things. Ego is the Enemy is a great book by Ryan Holiday that I would always recommend. Anything Stoic philosophy I love is a good thing. Sorry, I won't go too far down my...
Gosh.
No, but there's a lot of resources out there, and most religious and most philosophical traditions eventually get back to seeking to get rid of that inner turmoil, that voice that does tell the story, that voice that seeks drama, and kind of abandoning that. That's where peace is. Any Buddhist monk, any Christian Franciscan friar, any philosopher eventually gets to the point of like most of what stands in your way is how you perceive the world, and most of your problems are a story you made up that is causing you problems. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So boom.
This got deep.
It did. I think Callie was probably thinking like,
oh, would you like buy new computers or used computers?
I would have paid more in Facebook ads.
Also that, yeah. Pay for more social media.
Yeah.
Facebook's model is changing, so you should pay more. But
so, all right. So, if this inspired any more questions, please keep them coming. We need and love all your questions and feedback that we get. If you got something out of this, drop it in a comment or a review somewhere. We love reading those. If
you're an experienced chiropractor too, like what's the mistake that
what does chiropractor mean?
Oh yeah, what does chiropractor TOR and TIC mean? Explain that to me. Also, if you have a mistake that you want to share, post on our Facebook page. There'll be a thing when this post drops. Put it in the comments. Let us know what your big mistakes were. Yeah, I just want to hear those stories too. I want to hear more from other people because I'm not a chiropractor, so I don't get to go to all the conferences and hear all the stories. So I just like...
We don't really talk about our failures at conferences.
Oh no, you all just pose and like talk about how great things are and pretend that you're doing great.
Round up by 100.
Yeah,
my best week ever I saw 800, so it's about what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I see about 800 a week.
No, it's a jerky thing to say. I'm joking. All right, we love you all so much. Hope you got some great stuff out of this, and until next week, bye, She Slayers.
Bye.